So the North Koreans inviting a small group of foreign journalists to witness a destruction of its primary nuclear test site. Military analysts like General Jack Keane remain skeptical.
Given a widely held view that this nuclear test site collapsed as a result of the last major nuclear test that they conducted back in December, that it's probably a PR stunt, because therefore the site's not usable anyway, and they're trying to advertise it that they are dismantling this nuclear test site as a goodwill gesture to demonstrate that they are serious about denuclearization.
Dennis Wilder is a professor of Asian Studies at Georgetown University and former senior director for East Asian Affairs at the National Security Council. Dennis, I'm glad you're here today. You're the perfect guest on the perfect day to talk about it. So you know each of these countries individually, but you also look at the region of a whole, and you know the United States position. So let me just give you the floor to give me your impressions after the president's meeting today with the president of South Korea in the Oval Office.
I think the president is making some very smart moves here to be careful about the summitry. The North Koreans clearly are feeling their oats a bit. They're going back to their old style. In part, I think the president's right, because Xi Jinping has been willing to have these two meetings with the North Korean leader, starting to talk about economic development of the North. The North is feeling like they've got their back covered by the Chinese. So now the president, watching that, is realizing that he's got to put the pressure back on the Chinese and on the North Koreans. So what he's saying is what we should be saying, which is, hey, we will have this meeting if the terms are right. If the terms aren't right, we can wait. One of the things, Dana, in the past that we've seen is American negotiators with the North Koreans too eager to find a way to get a deal. And when we do that, they take us for a ride, and they've taken us for several rides in the past.
Well, I do want to ask you...
I think the president is signaling... Yeah, go ahead.
I want to ask you about the South Koreans, because in this scenario, it seems like they are very eager. And today in the Washington Post, there was an op-ed by the South Korean ambassador to the United States. Let me read you one line. "We cannot afford to lose hope, however, that Kim may choose a different path from his father and grandfather. Unlike in the past, we have seen and are about to witness several significant diplomatic actions at the highest level among the main countries involved." What do you think about that dynamic between what the South Koreans want and what the Chinese want, and with the president saying, okay, well, look, I'm not coming over there. I'm not going to waste my time and fly all the way to Singapore for nothing. But the South Koreans are very keen to get this done.
Well, I was actually glad that the North Koreans, if you will, popped the bubble of the South Koreans a little bit by refusing to have these meetings and by refusing to have the South Korean reporters go to the test site. I think South Korea was getting way out on its skis on this and way too believing that there is a change in North Korea. Now, I do think Kim 3.0 is different than Kim 2.0 and 1.0. He did study in Switzerland. He is internet savvy. I think he is thinking that if he got the right deal for his people, there is the possibility that he would give up the nuclear weapons. I'm not as convinced as some people that he would never give them up.
But it is also different for him in that he actually has the nuclear weapens, and the two previous Kims did not. Let me ask you about one other thing, which is China, because the president did talk about that before I let you go. I want to have you listen to this, because the president was obviously, as John Roberts reported, not that happy with how China may have weighed in here. Listen.
No, not really. I think that they're a start, but we need something. Look, China has been, I really call it a dereliction of duties to take advantage of us on trade the way we've been taken advantage of. So China, as an example, has made a fortune. I mean, a transfer of wealth like nobody's ever seen in history. They're the big one. They're almost all bad, but China's the big one. So, no, I'm not satisfied, but we'll see what happens.
Tell me what you think about that, Dennis.
These trade negotiations are really tough. It's between the world's two largest massive economies. Now, the Chinese, I think, are coming in trying to lowball the United States. And I think the president's right to say, we're not going to take crumbs off the table again. You've done very well off of our markets. You do very well every year off of our markets. What are you going to give us in return? How are we going to make this a fair, reciprocal relationship? And Leoha came, he put a few things on the table, more agricultural purchases, more LNG purchases from the United States. But what they didn't do was really talk about the structural change in the relationship that needs to happen so that American companies get a fair shake and the American worker gets a fair shake. And that's what needs to happen.
They want to wrap me to go, but I have to ask you. So John Roberts asked the president, and the president said that he thinks that whether this meeting takes place on June 12th is a coin flip. It's 50-50. Where do you put it?
I think it's a little higher. I think it's 60-40.
Okay.
But I do think that it's pretty close to that.
All right. We'll hold you to it. All right. Dennis Wilder, thank you.